Hello and welcome to Let's Learn English with Teacher Fens, where learning is always fun and exciting. Come and join me as we go along our lesson for today.
Good day, grade 10 students. I am Teacher Fems and I will guide you in our English class for today. Are you ready? Very well, let's start. They always say that we cannot move on to the present if we do not acknowledge the past and be aware of it. So to use that, before we proceed to our lesson, we are going to have a short review test. I hope that you have your papers with you. In this review test, all you have to do is write true if the statement below is correct and false if otherwise. I will be reading all the statements and you write down the answers in your paper. Ready? Let's start. For statement number 1, sources of information are classified as primary if they are authentic and have not been subjected to evaluation or assessment. Write down your answer. For number 2, commentaries and critiques are examples of tertiary sources. Let's proceed to number 3. Tertiary sources serve as collection of primary and secondary sources. For question number 4, information should be consistent for it to be considered accurate and useful. For the last number, government records and video recordings are examples of tertiary sources. Are you done? Very good. Let's check. Our lesson for today is about linear and non-linear text. But before we proceed to our lesson today, let me give you some introduction. This lesson focuses on various textual aids that may be used in understanding text. This highlights the importance and use of textual aids in making information presentation more comprehensive and understandable for readers. Some of these textual aids include graphic organizers, titles, and non-linear illustrations, among others. For our objective in our lesson, you are expected to identify the information portrayed in graphics and other non-linear texts and convert non-linear information to textual information and vice versa. To begin with, we are going to have this infographic. So what are you going to do? Just look closely at the infographic and study its content. When I say study its content, look at the figures, the statistics, and information inside the infographic. Are you looking at it? Good. Now, let us proceed to the questions for the infographic. Number 1. What is the infographic all about? Number 2. Determine how many ICU beds are available. Number 3. As per report, how many percentage did the isolation beds occupy? For number 4, based on the infographic, how many beds are occupied in the isolation area? And for number 5, how many mechanical vents are currently in use as shown in the infographic? Are you done? Very well. Good job in your first activity. Now, let us proceed to the lesson proper. What is a linear text? What word can you see or form in the word linear? Line. Very good. Now, let us find out why it is called a linear text. A linear text is a traditional text that needs to be read from beginning to end to make sense of the text. Examples of linear text are short stories, novels, letters, and educational texts. How about a nonlinear text? What is a nonlinear text? A nonlinear text, on the other hand, is not required to be read from beginning to end since its reading path is non-sequential. When you say non-sequential, you don't have to start with the first word up to the last. You don't follow a sequence or order. In assisting the readers, visual aids such as graphic organizers, concept maps, diagrams, and charts are also of help and examples of nonlinear text. Now that we know what a linear and nonlinear text are, you are now ready in transcoding linear to nonlinear text and vice versa. We are now ready to transcode a linear text to nonlinear text. How do we do it? Follow these simple steps. For step 1, read the text and get the main idea. Meaning to say, when you read the text, search, look, understand what the text is saying and what it is all about. Then, step 2, extract necessary information for the visual presentation. When you look for information, they may be words, ideas that are being compared, or numbers and statistics that are present in the text. Step 3. Remember to use keywords or phrases only. Since it's a nonlinear text, generally speaking, the form of the sentences are short. So you use keywords and phrases. Number 4. Classify information into categories. So after getting the information, identify them. If you can recall our activity in the infographic, there are informations that are separated, like the types of beds that are shown in that particular infographic. And lastly, for step 5, make sure to use the correct nonlinear text to present the information, because not all nonlinear texts have the same function, or not all linear texts can be used on the same text or concepts. Is that clear? Good. Let us find out which of the following nonlinear texts have you used. Have you used fishbone or Ishikawa diagram? How about flowchart, a Venn diagram perhaps, or a graphic organizers? Don't worry, if you forgot what are those nonlinear texts I'm telling you, we are going to review all of them. Get ready with your pen so you can take down notes while we are discussing the following nonlinear text. Let us know what is a cause and effect diagram. So this diagram, as you can see, is a connection between different concepts and is sometimes called as beneficial organizer, since it can be applied to all subject areas. When you say to all subject areas, it can be used in English, in math, in sciences, and other subjects that you have. This is more known as the fishbone or Ishikawa diagram. I don't think I need to explain why is it a fishbone. Look at the concept and look at the form. It looks like a fishbone. So how do we use this? I will look at the example of a cause and effect diagram. In here, as you can see, the head of the fish is the effect, and the effect is the blurry photo. Now, on the bones, you will see the possible causes of the effect, which is blurry photo, the hardware, the environment, method, and user. It also contains the possible reasons on, for example, hardware. If the hardware is the cause, it may be because of dirty lens or wrong lens. Now, if we're talking about the user, it may be because the user has shaky hands or the user is not following instruction. If it's environment, maybe the subject is moving too fast. That's why the photo is blurry, or the environment is too dark. If we talk about method as the cause, it could be wrong exposure, out of focus, or wrong mode. As you can see, this one is a very creative way of presenting the cause and effect. Will you use this in the future? I hope so. Next is a flow diagram or flow chart. This is a sequence chart that shows series of events in order. So as you can see in the picture, it uses a shape and then arrow. So you can use any other form of shape that you want and just put an arrow to show the sequence. If you have concept that has steps such as processes or sequence, the flow diagram is the applicable textual organizer for you. This is an example of a flowchart. Let me see if you know how to read a non-textual aid. So what is the flowchart all about? Very good. It's about how to grow lilies. How many steps do we have? Very good. 9 steps. What is the first step? Correct. The first step is find the right location. As you can see, the flowchart by using the arrow shows you the first step and the next steps. So if you wanted to show process like what we've said as the function of flowchart, use this type of flowchart depending on you. If you wanted to use square, a circle perhaps, that's up to you. Another type of non-textual aid is a Venn diagram. So I think you are familiar with these two overlapping circles. So when do we use this one? This is used to identify, classify, categorize, and recognize similarities and differences of two or more subjects, ideas, thoughts, or concepts. It is also called as the most commonly used textual aid because this instructional tool can be found in teacher resource, materials, examination handouts, and others. If you can recall, sometimes your teachers will ask you to compare characters in the stories that you've read using Venn diagram because that's the purpose of Venn diagram, to show similarities and differences of concepts to the ideas being compared or characters being compared. Is that clear? Alright, this is an example of a Venn diagram. Like what the description says, it is used to compare and show similarity. So in here, what are the two concepts being compared? Correct, it's solid and liquid. Can you give me the similarity of or similarities of the two? Yes, those are takes up space, made of molecules, and has definite size. How about one characteristic of solid? It has definite shape. How about liquid? Not a definite shape. Very good. So that's how you read a Venn diagram. Very good. It seems that you are well informed and well practiced in doing this kind of Venn diagram. The last example of a non-textual aid is a graphic organizer. So what are graphic organizers? They are visual displays that have key content information. Visual displays, they are creatively done. As you can see in the graphic organizer example, which is a hamburger, it shows on top of the bread as topic sentence. The fillers are supporting details and the bottom bread is concluding sentence. These textual aids provide learners with structure for abstract concepts. These are usually created and designed for those who have trouble organizing information and thoughts. Graphic organizers are free non-textual aids. When I say free, you are free to do what kind of look you would like to do or design your own graphic organizer portraying the information that you would like to present. Let me show you an example. This is an example of a graphic organizer. As shown in the first example, which is a hamburger graphic organizer, the top bread, which usually contains the main idea. In here, the content is I had a horrible sick day. And the fillers gives you the supporting details. First, it includes I couldn't eat my favorite food. My mom told me to stay in bed all day. At school, I was missing the party. And what could be the conclusion? I never want to be sick again. And if you look at the other side, there is a graphic organizer in form of a flower. So on the flower itself, it contains the main idea, while on the leaves, you will see the label detail. So you can write as many details as you have. This is just an example of presenting your understanding in a reading text that you have learned or read. Other forms of non-textual information includes concept maps, spider map, sensory observation chart, line graph, bar graph, pie graph, pictograph, and other related images. Information may also be presented in a form of infographics. Let us now proceed to learning task number 2. All you have to do is choose the letter of your answer and write your answers in your notebook or paper. Okay? Ready? Let's start. For number 1, textual aids are educational instruments that are used in classrooms and workplaces. These blank comprehension of text. A. Simplify. B. Complicate. C. Creates. And D. Organize. Write down your answer. Next number. Textual aids use blank or images that give a general idea of the topic. Is it A. Text, B. Research, C. Graphical outlines, D. Reports. Number 3. Underlining, bolding, highlighting, and blank are examples of simple textual aids that can be used by anyone easily. Is it A. Aligning, B. Margining, C. Justifying, and letter D. Italicizing. Number 4. Blank is one of example of a textual aid that helps in identify the causes and effects of situation or happening. Is it A. Cause and effect diagram, B. Flow diagram, C. Graphic organizer, and letter D. Venn diagram. Number 5. Blank is one example of a textual aid that identifies the similarities and differences of two or more categories. Is it A. Cause and effect diagram, B. Flow diagram, C. Graphic organizer, or letter D. Venn diagram. Number 6. Blank is one example of a textual aid that shows sequence or a step-by-step process of how to do something. Is it A. Cause and effect diagram, B. Flow diagram, C. Graphic organizer, and D. Venn diagram. Write your answer. Alright, number 7. Blank are textual aids that have visual displays and shows key content information. Is it A. Concept map, B. Fishbone diagram, C. Graphic organizer, or D. Ishikawa diagram? Let's proceed to number 8. A blank helps you in creating an outline before writing an essay. Is it A. Main idea organizer, B. Hamburger writing graphic organizer, C. Spider map, or D. Concept map? Number 9. Ishikawa diagram, also called as blank, is an example of a cause and effect diagram. Is it A. Fishbone diagram, B. Flow diagram, C. Concept map, and letter D. Venn diagram? Number 10. Blank is an example of a textual aid that can show the central thought with its matching characteristics. It is A. Main idea organizer. Is it hamburger writing graphic organizer for letter B? C. Spider map, or letter D. Concept map. Congratulations in finishing learning task number 2. Now, we proceed to learning task number 3, wherein you're going to use the table below and transform the information presented into paragraph form. In here, all you have to do is extract the information that you can find from the table and turn them into sentences and form paragraph. Alright? Good. Now write your answer in your notebook or your paper. Good luck! Do you still recall the flowchart example I showed you earlier in this lesson? Sharp memory! Bear that in mind because in our learning task number 4, you are going to use that as a reference. In learning task 4, all you have to do is think of your favorite dish or dessert and then present the steps in preparing or cooking your favorite food using a flowchart or a flow diagram. Easy, right? Happy working! Moving on to our learning task number 5. What do you see? A reading text, correct. So all you have to do is transform the reading text into a non-textual information source. If in learning task 4 you did the flowchart, in here you're going to make a Venn diagram using the information in the reading text. Allow me to read the first sentence. Sharks and whales are a classic example of two different animals revealing similar traits in the same environment. Based on the sentence I've read, what are the two concepts being compared? Very good, sharks and whales. And I would like you to use those two concepts in writing your Venn diagram. Okay, now we proceed to the example of a Venn diagram comparing the two concepts that we've identified a while ago, the whale and the shark. So what you're going to do is to fill in the circle with the correct information. I hope that you will get it right. You can start working. Moving on to our learning task number 6. In here, you just have to identify what is asked in each item. Write the letters of your answers in your notebook or paper. Number 1. Textual aids are educational blank that could be written or printed or the other ways of emphasizing the essential phrases, thoughts, graphs, and or images. Is it A. Materials, B. Instruments, C. Diagrams, or D. Connectors? Number 2. The following statements about textual aids are true, except A. These are tools that provide support and simplify comprehension of text. B. These are graphical outlines or images that gives a general idea of a topic. C. These help people understand any story or subject since they give emphasis on what they should be focusing on. Letter D. These only make the learning process complicated. Number 3. Textual aids help people understand a story or a subject since A. It gives emphasis on what is focused on. B. It gives reader an idea of the story's plot and important scenes. Letter C. It shows pictures of what happened in the story. Or letter D. It shows a graphic representation of the readers. In this part, you just have to choose among the definitions the appropriate one for the given textual aid. The number 4 is a flow diagram. Does it mean A. It emphasizes the connection between the different concepts? Is it B. It is composed of visual displays that have key content information? Letter C. It is used to identify, classify, categorize, and recognize similarities and differences of two or more subjects, ideas, thoughts, or concepts. Or letter D, it is a sequence chart that shows series of events in order. Number 5. Graphic organizer. Is it A? It emphasizes the connection between the different concepts. B. It is composed of visual aids that have key content information. Letter C. It is used to identify, classify, categorize, and recognize similarities and differences of two or more subjects, ideas, thoughts, or concepts. Letter D. It is a sequence chart that shows series of events in order. Number 6. Venn diagram. Is it A? It emphasizes the connection between the different concepts. B. It is known as a general organizer or textual aid that can show the central thought with its matching characteristics. Or C. It is used to identify, classify, categorize, and recognize similarities and differences of two or more subjects, ideas, thoughts, or concepts. And last, for letter D, it is a sequence chart that shows series of events in order. Number 7. Causes and effect diagram. Is it A? It emphasizes the connection between the different concepts. B. It is known as general organizer or textual aid that can show the central thought with its matching characteristics. Or C. It is used to identify, classify, categorize, and recognize similarities and differences of two or more subjects, ideas, thoughts, or concepts. Or it's D. It is a sequence chart that shows series of events in order. For number 8, Ishikawa diagram is called as blank. A. Hamburger writing graphic organizer. B. Fishbone diagram. C. Venn diagram. D. Spider map. Number 9. A blank is an example of a graphic organizer which uses pictures instead of words or numbers to present the idea or data. Is it A. Sensory observation chart, B. Pie chart, C. Pictograph, or D. Main idea graphic organizer? Last, for learning task 7, number 10, it is a commonly used diagram that identifies the cause and effect of a phenomenon or simple situations. Is it A. Hamburger writing graphic organizer, B. Fishbone diagram, C. Venn diagram, and letter D. Spider map? Good job in getting the answers correctly in learning task number 6. Now we proceed to the last activity for our lesson today, which is you getting a sample bar, pie or line, or pictograph, and then copy-paste it in your notebook or your paper. After that, provide an explanation on the information presented by the chosen graph. Is that clear? Good job. This is your rubric in transcoding information. And that's it, my dear grade 10 students. That concludes our lesson for today. Thank you for listening and see you for the next lesson in our English class.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share!